Hey, marketing is that thing that we have to deal with. We know we need it. We know that we need to speak with our voice to those who we need to speak to, but it's intimidating and it's not necessarily a natural part of being a home care owner. That's what we're going to talk about today, and we are going to slay dragons here on ActionCast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a topic that you can talk about all day. And if you're not talking to the right person or you're not asking the right questions, you can walk away just as confused or maybe more confused than you were when you started. So today, the purpose of this conversation is to have a conversation with one of the right people, one of the people that walks into it in confusion, but you walk out knowing more, having more to work with than you did. And that is why we are talking to Jeremy Fuller today. Welcome to the ActionCast.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, Jeremy? And tell us about home care marketing.
Yeah. So my name's Jeremy Fuller. I've been doing digital marketing for about 23 years. I started when I was 16. I'm going to turn 40 this year, believe it or not, which is kind of crazy. And I've got 2 kids, beautiful wife, amazing family. And I love God. I serve in our church, and I was, raised just to follow God, follow His word. And, anyway, I raised in the ministry. I'm a PK. So my mom was a pastor, evangelist anyway, but I just knew that I was called into business, and I started doing creating websites by code. So my training in the information and the things that I speak from is from experience, not ideas, it's from either testing and say, oh, this is the real world data that says this. So I was a coder by default. And if you get one period off, everything breaks. Like the website just won't work, Mm-hmm. So, but that's kind of how I got started in digital marketing, and then also persuasive marketing, copywriting, web design, landing pages, data collection, analytics, all that kind of stuff. I got started when I was a young age. So that's a little bit about me. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I also own a few different companies. So I have experience not just in home care, but just, growing multiple businesses.
That is accurate. And I will say I'm a preacher's kid too. So that's one of those things that you instantly know what people mean when they say that. And being as part of that background and working with home care owners, that's what we do. I have learned that oftentimes those that are best in their field are those that started and were forced into a broad range of knowledge. And then as time and wisdom and knowledge progressed, they niched down. So it's like learning, a certain type of math and then niching down into a particular math that you study, or that you're a particular, science that you study. Like the more niche you can get in your field, the better it is. And so learning that broad vocabulary, the broad dialect of SEO marketing and digital this and digital that has value. And you can walk into any room, anywhere with any entrepreneur and on some context speak their language. But then the ability to be able to niche down and to understand on a level deeper than someone that just has this macro vision to be able to get more the micro vision. It's very important. And so much of marketing is not only what you say, it's who you're talking to.
Yes.
How to steer that conversation in a way that you're speaking to the correct people for your message. Since you're a preacher's kid, I'll throw out my favorite marketing line out of the Bible. I'm going to wow you here. This is my one piece of impressing people with my marketing knowledge. Jesus said, "My sheep know my voice." And that is the best marketing line, I think, in history, is that Jesus was only talking to a certain person when he was there. Jesus knew his audience, and he said, "My sheep know my voice." And that has always So that has always ministered to me about, you have to know who you're talking to and know how to speak in a way that those people know that you're talking to them.
Yeah.
So, um, with that, we're going to hit it. I'm going to look at you. You're the expert, and
Okay.
say, let's start with the big one. Let's slay a dragon right off the bat. And as we go forward, Jeremy, I'm sure, is going to talk about this more and get it more manageable for us. But what is home care owners, home care agency owners? You know them personally. You have a lot of experience. We talked off camera about how much experience you have in this industry, and it's impressive. Home care agency owners, what is the number one marketing mistake that you see them making over and over and over again? And knowing you, I know you can spot it right off. What is that number one mistake?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's actually quite a few that come to mind. But if I was to have to pick one, I'd probably say it's ignoring their online visibility. So, for example, I'll kind of elaborate what I'm talking about. Some people will come to us and we offer a free audit. So when somebody comes in, we can find out where do they rank on Google for the top 30 keywords, right? So we can know, usually without even doing the audit, if I ask them, well, how many calls or leads do you typically get, if you were to guess, as a home care owner, that you're getting on average every 30 days? And if they come back and say, well, maybe I'm getting like 5 or 10, I typically know they're not ranking on Google, because our clients who are ranking on Google get anywhere from 100 to 300 calls a month. So because they're ranking on Google. So I just know, okay, they're probably not ranking on Google that well. So when I do the audit and then it reveals, yes, indeed, everything's red, they're on the second page of Google. And I have this joke, and the joke is, where's the best place to hide a dead body? Second page of Google. Nobody goes there, right? So I think that is a big mistake. They build their referral networks, right? And they get that going, which I think is good. We're starting a home care agency here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're going to be building our referral networks, right? I'm not saying that you should not do that. It's just that they forget their online visibility matters as well, because your referral partners are going to look you up, and they don't want to partner with somebody that has a bad website or has bad reviews. Or let's say your referral partners saw good reviews or saw a good website, but over time, your website has aged, or you started getting bad reviews and you haven't even really done anything to correct it. We could get you ranking on Google. You could get lucky with Google and just rank on Google. But if you have bad reviews, let's say it's I think if I believe I don't want to misspeak here, but I believe the statistic is anything below 3.5, people tend to steer away and not even reach out to the business. So let's say your referral network is good and they're sending people over to you. Those people will check you out. And if you have bad reviews, they may not even call you. And you might follow up with your referral partner and say, hey, thanks for sending over the referral, but they never reached out. Well, what happened? Right. And so I think that ignoring your online visibility is a problem, because they come into us. It's just terrible that they haven't given any love to it. They haven't really looked at anything on that side of things. They got the referral side up face to face, but their online is struggling.
Right. I can understand that. And I can also see that I'm old school. I'm older than you. I'm Gen X. I am solidly Gen X. I'm in my late 40s. And there's some things about communication that annoys me, like as a Gen Xer. Like I'm one of those people that actually kind of still prefers to talk on the phone as opposed to text all the time. But me not liking that, me preferring phone calls, me doing that doesn't change the reality of actually what it is right now. Like, it doesn't change the reality of the economy that we live in right now. And I'm wishing something was a little different, or like you said, you can actually hurt your brand if you've got such a strong referral network that you're getting those referrals, and then they see you, and then they choose not to pursue the relationship because of the online presence you have. You're not only not helping yourself, you're hurting yourself, because you just cost yourself visibility later. So it's one of those things that I'm that person too that has been sometimes dragged into what is modern, communications, kicking and screaming, because that's what I am here. I do a lot of the community management. I do a lot of communications within our action leaders and things like that. And there's things that I personally would prefer that it's a little bit different, but me
Yeah.
preferring it doesn't change it. And I'm sure that you
Right.
work with a lot of owners that, they miss the days when a handshake meant, but we
Yeah.
are living in and it's good to have those, like you said, where your expertise actually goes towards that area that maybe people are feeling a little vulnerable in, and maybe that's not exactly where they feel like their strength is.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I think going in that too is that there might even be some people listening to this that could attest, and I hear it all the time. Well, I did SEO.
Hmm.
You know, I spent $300 on a month on SEO. Well, I'm just going to let you know, if you're watching this and you're spending below $500, that's not real SEO. Like for us, one backlink, like, and some of you might, what is a backlink? Well, you have to it's a website that's linking to your website, and that helps your SEO. And I'm not trying to get too nerdy here, but at the end of the day, that's part of SEO, right? And
Hmm.
one for us at our wholesale rate might cost $350 because it's a certain kind of backlink that moves the needle to move your business listing to the top. Well, if you went and tried to buy that same backlink, not at wholesale prices, because we buy in bulk, so we get wholesale
Hmm.
pricing, you might pay $900 to $1,500 a month. So when I hear people like, oh yeah, I'm doing SEO, and they say, well, I'm spending $300, $400, $500 a month, I just know off the top of my head, it's probably rank tracking, which is basically just finding out where you rank on Google. It's not doing anything about it if it's a bad ranking, right?
Right.
Um, so I think understanding also education is an issue with like what you're getting. Is it
Hmm.
actually moving the needle? And so some people will hear this and say, well, I tried SEO, it didn't work. Well, the problem in the world of SEO is that, to be an RN or to be a doctor, you have to have a certain state requirement baseline level of things that you do to study to be able to call yourself a doctor or an
Hmm.
RN or LPN, right? Well, in the world of SEO, to say, well, I'm doing SEO for you, Mr. Businessman or home care agency, there's no
Right.
state, there's no federal requirement. So they can say they're doing SEO and all they do is just track your rankings. And I see
Hmm.
that all the time. And so then the home care agency owner begins to think, well, I did SEO and nothing happened,
Hmm.
right? So it doesn't work. Well, when it's done properly and when it's done right, you can get on the front page and you will see an increase in calls, right?
Hmm.
And so that's just key there. Like it happens, and we see it all the time, is that when you start ranking for those keywords that matter and people are typing in, you will see an increase in calls.
Well, that's awesome. And it's good to know how to walk into it and not just because, like you said, a lot of people feel out of their element with marketing. It's that thing that it doesn't come naturally intuitive as part of being a home care agency owner. That's not the thing that's necessarily, and I see it a lot in our coaching in action leaders. We see that oftentimes, and I say this, it's sad, it's unfortunate, but a lot of times the very best agency owners actually tend to be the worst at marketing. And it's because that's not that natural marriage of
Yeah,
you happen to be really good at this if you happen to be really good at this. And
right.
so they're not necessarily that thing that's going to, but there's hope there. And I don't say that to say it's hopeless for owners to start making positive action in their agency, because if they're really good at one thing, they can become really good and they can develop skills. They're just, something doesn't have to be a natural talent to be able to be a skill set.
Right.
There's things in life that we're naturally talented and gifted at. There's also things in life that we have developed skills for, and one is not exclusive to the other. So, based on that, based on your professional experience, you do help home care agency owners every day. You also see that agency owners have to get to a place of being able to work with you. They need to develop on a level in order to be able to make that next step in their agency or this or that. So, what is that thing that agency owners can do right now to make their marketing better and more effective? What are some baseline techniques that they can just go in and just attack this and start working towards that goal?
That's a great question. So I know it's called Action Cast. So I have a few different action things they can take. So I talked a little bit ago about increasing phone calls, right? One of those things now, I'm not going to get to the action thing, just something I want to cover so people understand this. You know, when you rank on Google, when you run Google ads, we see this. I literally was on the phone with somebody from Google, and they are inviting us out to come to their headquarters at their Google partners for Google ads. And what we find is that you can run Google ads. You can rank on Google for SEO to rank higher when somebody searches for home care near me or home care agencies. But when that lead picks up the phone and calls you, if you treat that lead the same way as, say, a referral partner, you're going to see worse close rates. Your close rate's not going to be as good. Now, I've literally been on the phone with home care agency owners, and they swear up and down that they have amazing close rates. Cool. I believe you. But those close rates are from your referrals. Those referrals are oftentimes more aware about who you are, what you do, what you charge, and they've been referred by somebody they trust.
Right.
So they're closer to the finish line. You don't really have to be great at sales. You just have to be great at taking information down. So really it's an intake process versus a sales process. When you are ranking on Google and you start seeing more calls, like I talked about, so that's step one, get more traffic, right?
Okay.
SEO, Google ads, you're just driving traffic to your business listing, to your website. Now the next step is that lead, that traffic calls you, right? But if you treat that call like all your other people and you don't have a sales process, you just use an intake process, I guarantee you're going to come away from that with a mindset that Google ads doesn't work, SEO doesn't work, and we see an increase in calls. And sometimes clients will say, well, it's not working. Like there was a client, I'll give you an example. They had 0 calls before working with us. We generated 38 calls. And they were like, well, we're not getting leads. So I went through each lead, and some of them were asking for 2 hours of care. Some of them were asking for 4 hours of care, et cetera. Some of them were asking about pricing. And the wrong way to handle this, and Greg Mazza talks about this, I'm pretty sure Clint and Jessica talk about how you answer the phone matters. So there's training out there. Like you said, there's hope out there. Yeah. There's ways to train your team. But if you aren't going through that training or even implementing that training on that phone call process, you would come under the assumption that it doesn't work. Why? Because if you answer the phone call and somebody says, hey, what do you guys charge? And you say, oh, well, we charge $32 or we charge $48 or whatever it is. What you've done is that person that is calling is going through a list on Google, creating maybe notes, who the company is. And that's maybe they aren't even writing it down. Maybe they're just calling and asking verbally. They're not, and just trying to create a mental note. Such and such agency charges 32. Another agency charges 48. I'm going to go with them. Right. And so maybe they don't even call you back. Well, what you did is you just lost that. I like to call it, because I'm, PK, I like to call it fish. Well, you just lost that fish. You went out to the pond, you fished, you got that fish, you spent all the money on the trip, the cabin, the airplane, SEO. You got to the front of Google. Now you caught the fish. They called on the line. So you have them on the line. But you've answered that question. So you basically unhooked the fish, threw it back out into the pond. Because you've answered that question. And there's a beautiful way to actually answer that one question. What do you charge? And it shouldn't be to just give your rate on the phone, right? And so that's one specific problem that you could, if your team's doing that, don't give your prices on the phone. Another one could be, well, somebody calls in, maybe they think they need 2 hours of care. And what if your minimum is 6? What if somebody calls in and they ask for 4 hours of care and your minimum is 6 hours? Well, your person who's answering the phone in your office is going to say, sorry, we only do 6 hours. That's our minimum. Oh, okay, click. No, you need
Yeah.
You need to qualify them. And maybe they think they need 4 hours, but
Right.
after discussing with them, they actually need 5, and that's close to your minimum. What you see what I'm saying? You have to go through a sales process. You can't just do an intake form. Oh, you need 4? Sorry, we don't do that.
Right.
Click. And so that's what I've literally heard on phone call recordings from some clients that even complained to me. We got them 38 leads, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's only 2 hours." Well, did your team even ask them if
Right.
and do like a phone call mini assessment or a
Right.
qualifying process, or did you just tell them you don't do 2 hours, right? Because what if they could afford 4 hours and that's your minimum, but
Right.
the client thinks they only need 2?
Right. And actually, you're right. Jessica and Clinton do a training where they talk about we are providing solutions, not just services. If you
Yeah,
look at yourself as like an a la carte service selection, and like you said, you have this mentality of, nope, we don't do that. No, we're not going to get called in that again. Like you're not cultivating, because like you said, they're pretty much cold leads when they call. They're just, this isn't a warm touch. This isn't a warm market. This is people that are looking and need information and are in a variety of states that they're going to be upset. They're going to feel have fear. They're going to have a lot of emotions that they're not used to dealing with just in making that call. And any of us that have dealt with elderly parents or that have dealt with people that are in compromised situations, by the time you're making that phone call, you're in a really bad mental space. You don't need somebody on the other end saying, "No, we don't do that," and just hanging up on. Like there is no relationship, and there is no transaction without relationship taking
yeah,
place. And the reason we have these big companies that we all identify and we know, the Walmarts of the world, the Costco's, the McDonald's, and all these people that are just staples in our communities that you pull in without thinking about it, those companies, those brands have spent generations building that brand awareness for us to have developed a relationship to where we make transactions with them without thought. But man, if I go to a little casual market, or man, I pull up to somebody's yard sale and I'm looking at their stuff, it's off-putting if how they handle and how they deal with me, because I don't have a relationship with that person yet, and I
right.
haven't decided, I haven't given myself permission to enter into any kind of relationship with this person. So that's really good wisdom to not view things as though this is just a friend that you have to reel in, because those referral partner connections, and maybe that's part of it too. Maybe they're a little bit spoiled to those referral connections where
Yeah,
all they have to do is reel it in. So maybe that is it. Maybe we're a little reluctant to get in and prove ourselves over and over and over again. We want people that know how great we are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's also a weakness that I see time after time after time. Now, where agencies have a good sales process, a good example is a client of ours, Shore Home Care, and Fernando, he's pretty active in your group. He does the qualifying on the call and does a little light assessment on the call to qualify, to bring them on board, and he basically gets them signed on an agreement on a phone call, right?
That's awesome.
And it's a sales process, right? Qualifying, what do you actually need? What do we recommend?
Mhm.
Asking questions versus, oh, here's another referral coming in.
Mhm.
What's your name? What's your phone? Like that's
Right.
that's an intake process. You got to get good at sales. You got to get good at relationship building, problem solving. Sales is very involved in problem solving, right? And so that is one of the biggest things I see, is that, yeah, we can get a client ranked on the front page of Google, but if they have bad reviews or if they don't have a good sales process, that can hinder really the success of them ranking on the front page of Google.
Right, very true. And you're a partner in business. You're not meant to make their home care great. You're meant to make their marketing good. And I will say, and I want to encourage owners, this Jeremy sees it. He sees it to people that get to a point to where they're capable and they're able to work with Jeremy and those that are able to take your marketing to the next level. There is a skill set to learn here, and he's talking about that phone call intake process. I think it was Jessica I heard on a training about calls the other day say there is a thin line between confidence and arrogance. And on the phone, that relates instantaneously almost. Within the first few sentences, people melt into confidence and they want their relationship with confidence. Arrogance is extremely off-putting, and every part of our being wants to get away from those that appear arrogant in what they do. So like learning how to be confident in yourself and the solutions you provide without it crossing a boundary and becoming arrogance, that's very important. And so that's really good to talk about. It doesn't matter where you rank on Google. You have to be able to have built those systems and processes to reel in the fish. I like your reel in the fish. To reel in your fish. Okay, so to land the plane, here we are. Y'all have heard a lot of knowledge. I want to remind you that this will stay on the page, so you can rewind this. You can listen to different parts of it, especially the parts where he was given all that information. You can write and take your notes. But to land the plane, I want to take, a lot of owners see their agencies, they see what they're doing really well. These kinds of things tend to be a mirror. So they've probably heard a couple of things that maybe they don't feel like they're not as confident in, or they feel like they need to do better. And what is that one thing, in your professional opinion, in working with owners, what is that one thing that you would suggest that owners take from here today, take this action cast? How do they put it into action? What is that one thing they do starting today?
Wow, you're putting me on this again. There's multiple things that come to mind, but if there's one thing, let's say they're not working with us, but they're working with somebody and they got on the front page of Google, but they feel like maybe it's not as profitable or return on investment good enough. I would say implement phone call recording. Listen to some of the calls that's coming in. How's your team interacting? Are they following a sales process? Is there a sales process? One of our clients out of New Jersey, this is how they would, one of their team members would answer the phone. And I'm not even exaggerating. This is literally, he answered the phone on 3 calls. I called the home care owner and I let her know, and she was shocked. But this is how he answered the phone. Hello? So I think that's a great thing, is that, you could have all the best SEO in the world, but if you don't have that good sales process, it's not going to convert. Some people might even hang up when they hear that hello, So having some kind of sales process for phone calls. And if you don't know what that should look like, get connected with your coaches like Clint, Jessica, so that way you can get the proper training for your team, because I think that is what helps you the most after you rank on Google. And for us, even as an agency, I also just want to say this real quickly too. SEO is a complicated beast, right? And this is just me being transparent and vulnerable for a minute, okay? We've had clients where we had multi-locations. We were doing SEO for them. So like I'll give you an example. There's a company out of San Diego we were working for, still working with them. And he brought in 4 locations. Well, we got ranking 3, but one of the other ones, the 4th one, didn't move at all. Now, it's not to say it won't move with keyword rankings, but 3 locations went up and improved within 6 months, which is unheard of. But the 4th one, stagnant. Right. So SEO is not, when you hire an SEO company, I don't want people to create a mindset, this is bad or not. Usually you should start seeing movement after a year. And we've had some issues where a client might move locations and Google resets their SEO from the start. And so if you've moved the locations, if you have been with an SEO company, maybe they aren't doing their job, Get an evaluation from a company that you trust. We offer something for free. I'm not trying to do a pitch. I'm just saying from somebody, get it from somebody. We offer something where we audit where you rank, right? So if you're with somebody over a year, or if you have moved locations, it's good to do an audit, because you may not be ranking on Google. Maybe you think you are, or maybe the calls are coming in and they're just not closing. So I would do an audit there on that whole process.
That's good. And honestly, that helps because I feel like what you're saying is ask questions. Ask your questions at every point in the process. Am I ranking on Google? If I'm getting calls, what's happening to those calls when you reach a point in your agency, you are not going to be the face you're not going to be the voice they hear. You're not going to be the voice they see. And so you need to understand that the systems and processes in place. If you are part of one of our coaching programs, if you're part of Action Leaders, you can always DM me. I'll connect you with the trainings if you don't know where they're at in the hub for how to talk on the phone. Nicole talks on here. Kevin talks on here. He is our expert in marketing. He talks about and teaches people how to relate and how to reach out in the correct way. There is connection available. There's always knowledge. There's always wisdom. Jeremy is an excellent one to connect with if you are to that point in business where you are seeking to make that next level connection. But remember, no matter where you are, there are things you can do to positively affect your marketing. And we're all rooting for you, because not every agency is to the place where they need to work with Jeremy today. And he knows that. Not every home care agency owner is to the place where they need to be part of Action Leaders. And we know that and respect that, because we're like everybody else. Jeremy is like everybody else. We do best when we're talking to those who we serve best. We are out to serve those that we serve best. And so that's what you need to do as a home care agency owner. Just know, don't overwhelm yourself. Just talk to those who you serve best, and do it in a way that is true to your ethics and true to what you want your company to represent. This has been an amazing ActionCast. Thank you very, very much for being part of this, Jeremy. I have really enjoyed myself today.
Same here.
So these kind of conversations are, this is where my inner visionary comes out. And I start thinking of all these ideas. Oh, we can do this, this, and this, and this. And then I have to quiet myself down and say, no, pick my lane. Jeremy says, do the one thing, pick the process, reel the fish in. So, but anyway, we have really enjoyed today. I want to remind all our owners that this ActionCast is meant as a conversation to you. It's meant to take you from wherever you are today, and wherever you're at is good, because it's all you've got. It's all I've got, wherever you're at. So don't feel like we talked above past where you're able to, or maybe lower than where you're at right now. Where you're at is perfect, because that's all we have. And then we're going to take wherever you're at, and we're going to help you get to where you want to go. Wherever your destiny is, that is what we're here to do, is to take the conversation and just progress it a little bit forward.
And to speak on that, there's a saying that I love: 1% better every day brings 30% better a month.
That's right. That's right. And just focusing on that one thing, take the one tidbit that Jeremy spoke on today that you really attach to and it feels doable, and do that one thing. And we look forward to the next conversation, the next big idea, the next thing that we do that propels your agency forward. We will see you next time on the ActionCast.